Welcome to the MIT Leadership Video Series. My name is Hal Gregersen, and I'm the Executive Director of the MIT Leadership Center. Today, we're honored to have Titania Veda with us. She's a communications consultant with organizations from around the world, organizations like Endeavor and Asia Society. You know, one of the first questions I have is, if you think about your work as a leader, really around the world, what are one or two of the unique or defining elements of who you are as a leader?
Interesting question. I value two things the most in my work. One is autonomy, and the other is learning. So I think as a leader, that's why I try to give to the people on my team. Mm-hmm. And as you know, I'm an independent consultant, so I work with various teams. My way of working is very adaptable. I play it by ear a lot because I go in and I hit the ground running. The teams are ad hoc, and so I have to work with so many different dynamics, a lot of different cultures, and I find what all of them really like is that when you give them a sense of independence, and a sense of autonomy, they actually do a lot better. Yes, you give them clear guidelines, but you let them play within that square or circle or whatever shape that you give them.
Where for you do you think this deep commitment to autonomy came from? In other words, has this always been part of Titania? Has this always been part of your world?
Ever since I can remember, I've always wanted to leave home and be independent. That's pretty much, I can't remember being anything else. In Asia, it's considered quite odd to not want to be doing a 9-to-5 job.
Were there people who, as you were growing up with a pretty autonomous way of approaching the world, were there people who protected or supported or valued in an obvious way that culturally unique approach that you were taking?
I'd always been more of an Anglophile than an Asiaphile, just because of the way Western thought is geared towards autonomy in that sense and independence, whereas Asia is more cultural community, right? So not really, in my opinion. Although my father's kind of motto when I was growing up was, you always have a choice. He's kind of regretting that right now, but that sort of helped me. So I always think I always have a choice to be independent.
I think part of independence could well be, again, this capacity to ask questions that other people don't ask, to raise issues by asking these questions that actually might be quite uncomfortable to people. Is that part of your world?
In Asia, I'm used to working with so many different cultures. I kind of try to come in really subtly. But I do ask people what motivates them. And that's something that in Asia people don't necessarily ask each other. Because I always find that if I know what motivates me, then I can work better that way. And what's the bigger picture? Those are like the two most important things that I would ask myself. So that was also what I would ask my team. Yeah.
What drew you to a project sort of world as opposed to working full-time in a company? Part of it's the autonomy, obviously, but anything else that...
It's the diversity of the people I meet, because if I work in a company, I meet the same people over and over again, and yes, we have different projects and discussions and things like that, but it's when I work for different projects, I'm handling 5 clients right now, and some of them are nonprofits, social entrepreneurs, some of them are for-profits, and basically it's just my brain can move around with so many different projects. It's great. So in the mornings, if I'm done with one, I'll just move on to another one. And if you're just working with one company, I feel that you're almost boxed in. Yeah.
Which probably helps you be able to see different things as you're working across these different organizations.
I like the big picture. So I connect the dots for a lot of people, which is why I got into strategic partnership kind of work, because my areas of interest are so varied. I can basically find impact investors from like India and help them work with a farmer in Indonesia, or an artist, and or a fashion designer, to collaborate together. So it's just cross section and interdisciplinary. But that's what I enjoy.
What is the big picture for you?
The reason why I've always been attracted to arts and culture is because for countries to come together and connect, that's the first way in. And I don't think anyone really sees it like that, because they think the first way in is either business or politics, right? Art and cultures are about storytelling. And that's how you understand each other's dynamic and their cultures, and where they're coming from. So, and then you can get into business and policies. But you've laid the groundwork with the arts.